Well, hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Ashmit Kumar, and here are the headlines that we're tracking at this hour. Supreme Court orders Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh to stop crop burning immediately as air quality remains hazardous across large parts of northern India, says chief secretaries of the state will be held accountable and directs them to hold a meeting tomorrow. Court also questions the efficacy of Delhi's odd-even scheme and directs the state to stop open burning of solid waste. Sensex and Nifty end marginally in the red after a range-bound session. Mid-caps outperformed the blue chips, with the index ending with gains of over 100 points. More than 10,000 Palestinians and 1,400 Israelis are dead 1 month since the Hamas attack and the war in Gaza. Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel will have overall security responsibility for Gaza after the war for an indefinite period. United Nations chief renews demand for a ceasefire and says a tragedy of colossal proportions is unfolding in Gaza. Once America's most valuable startup at $47 billion, WeWork files for bankruptcy protection, is now worth less than $50 million. The company's business in US and Canada will get impacted. WeWork India says that they operate independently of WeWork Global, add that their operations will not be affected. Ride-hailing app Uber posts a $221 million profit in Q3, but misses Wall Street's expectations. Bookings are up 31% and the company projects faster growth in Q4. Indigo CEO Peter Elbers expects 15 to 19% growth in airlines capacity in FY24. Says measures are being taken to mitigate the capacity gap due to Pratt & Whitney's engine recall. Some of the steps include lease extensions and damp leasing of planes.
3, 2, and 1!
Mama Earth's parent Honasa sees a tepid start to its Dalal Street journey, lists at less than 2% premium on NSE. Mama Earth employees and qualified institutional buyers had led the bidding process. Retail investors were largely cautious. A day after bagging the first 100% FDI approval in the defense sector, Swedish company Saab has big plans for India. CEO says he's upbeat about demand from Indian Army for a shoulder-fired rocket system. Also adds that Saab could even consider exporting from India. Electoral season kicks off. 20 out of 19 Chhattisgarh Assembly constituencies go to polls in Phase 1. Several of the seats are in Naxal-affected Bastar. Mizoram also votes in a single phase. Both states witness a voter turnout of over 70%. Also on the show today, empty poll promises and hollow words. Rajasthan farmers express discontent. Tell CNBC-TV18 that they are trying to steer away from caste dynamics and vote as farmers. A special report from Jaipur. Well, straight up to the day's market action now. Sensex and Nifty ended with minor cuts. It was trading in a range-bound session. Mid-caps and banks managed to outperform the major indices. The Nifty Bank Index gained nearly 120 points and the mid-cap index gained over 100 points. And well, it was a muted Dalal Street debut for Mama Earth's parent company, Honasa Consumer, with its share listing only about 2% higher than the offer price. Now, the stock closed with gains of 4%. Remember, the initial public offer was subscribed over 7.6 times, led by strong interest from institutional investors.
Even in FY23, there is an exceptional item because of which you're seeing the loss. Otherwise, we were EBITDA positive, although it was only 1.5%. At this point of time, we are not looking at divesting anything, but in future, we don't know how we look at things. And we are in this for decades. We want to build this company and brands for decades. We are at least not seeing any headwinds as we speak, and we are growing very strongly, and we see a lot of opportunity.
Well, in global earnings, ride-hailing app Uber's third quarter numbers missed streets' expectations on the top and bottom line. However, Gross bookings exceeded the company's guidance from the second quarter. The company's revenue rose 11% on an annual basis. The company reported a net income of $221 million versus a net loss of $1.2 billion. In a statement, company CEO Dara Khosrowshahi said that third quarter was very strong and the company witnessed growth in monthly active users. Well, Saudi Aramco's net profit declined 23% to $32 billion in the quarter ending September. The company attributed the fall to lower oil prices and volume sold. The drop in profitability this year has been in line with the industry trends. And shares of UBS surged in trade after the Swiss banking giant's underlying profit beat the street's expectations. However, its quarterly net loss widened far more than anticipated, owing to the $2 billion spent to integrate the recently acquired Credit Suisse. Total group revenues for the quarter stood at a little less than $12 billion, growing 23% sequentially. And well, Japanese video game company Nintendo reported strong sales in September quarter. The releases of its flagship games Zelda and the Super Mario movie earlier this year boosted sales. Revenue slipped 4% while profit declined 19%, but both parameters still beat the street's expectations. Now, the company also hiked the forecast for its full-year profit to $2.8 billion. Well, here is a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Indigo CEO Peter Elbers expects a 15 to 19% growth in the airline's capacity for FY24. Speaking to my colleague Danish Anand, Elbers said that the airline is taking measures to mitigate the capacity gap due to Pratt & Whitney's engine recall that has led to grounding of over 40 of its aircraft. Some of the steps, he said, include lease extensions as well as damp leasing of planes. Take a look. Well, 4 years ago, WeWork was the most valued startup in the United States, worth $47 billion. Its flamboyant founder and CEO, Adam Neumann, was aiming to revolutionize the office space and turn it into a physical social network. But after a botched IPO, the downfall began. WeWork's share price has plummeted 98%, and its valuation is now under $50 million. Today, the company has filed for bankruptcy, capping a remarkable collapse. Arundhati Ramanan reports on the meteoric rise and the rapid fall of WeWork.
Co-working space provider WeWork has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in a US court. Once the darling of venture capital investors, WeWork was valued at a whopping $47 billion at its peak. As of June this year, WeWork's losses totaled to $16 billion. In August, WeWork raised substantial doubt that it could continue to operate as it grappled with $2.9 billion in net long-term debt and more than $13 billion in long-term leases. The current CEO of WeWork is hoping to continue operations once the restructuring is over. In a statement, David Tolley said, and I quote, "WeWork is here to stay and we plan to remain in the vast majority of buildings as we move into the future." End of quote. Founded in 2010 by Adam Neumann and Miguel McKelvey, WeWork bought long-term leases on office buildings and sold short-term memberships to offices equipped for co-working. Neumann rode a wave of venture capital frenzy, positioning the office rental company as a tech company.
Most companies in the world run their company with quarterly earning reports. And when I'm going to make a decision, this is true about life and true about a business. When I'm going to make a decision based on 3 months forward, I'm not going to make the right decision. Masa is very famous for making a 300-year plan. If you want to start thinking forward, you really have to think really far away.
SoftBank owned majority stake in WeWork, sinking about $18 billion into the company. Ahead of its IPO in 2019, Masayoshi Son was upbeat about WeWork's prospects.
They're growing so quickly and they're investing into the capex, right?
Yep.
But it's a recurring revenue. It's an ongoing recurring revenue. It's like a subscription. Facebook was losing money even post-IPO for a while. And once they start making money, it's dramatica.
But the IPO turned out to be a dud. WeWork's valuation got cut from $47 billion to about $10 billion. Adam Newman was in the line of fire with allegations of corruption and lack of corporate governance. Newman was forced out of the company. SoftBank pumped money yet again to revive WeWork, but the COVID-19 pandemic and lack of demand for office spaces became the straw that broke the camel's back. WeWork saw its losses quadruple in 2021 to a whopping $2.1 billion in the first quarter of that financial year. Years later, in its most recent filing, the firm managed to bring its losses down to $397 million. Amidst these developments, WeWork India's CEO Karan Virwani said that the India operations will not be impacted. Embassy Group holds 73% stake in WeWork India, while WeWork Global holds only 27%. Virwani said, and I quote, "We will continue to hold the rights to use the brand name as part of the operating agreement while serving our members, landlords and partners as usual." End of quote.
Come with me and let's build the future together.
Oscar-winning actor Jared Leto played Adam Newman in an Apple TV series titled We Crashed. Leto had one piece of advice to Newman about the series: do not watch it.
Said to him, don't ever watch it. And which I stand by, you know. I mean, there's really no reason. First of all, he lived it. Why live through it again?
In Mumbai with Jagriti Potfore, Arundhati Ramnan for CNBC-TV18.
Meanwhile, the government has issued an advisory to social media platforms seeking compliance with existing regulations in treatment of deep fake videos. In its notification, the IT ministry reminded social media platforms that they are legally obliged to remove digitally morphed video content within 24 hours of a complaint. Now, this comes after actor Rashmika Nandana's deep fake video went viral. And Swedish defense company Saab has become the first foreign company to receive 100% foreign direct investment in India's defense projects. The company will set up a rocket manufacturing facility in India and production will begin in 2024. Parishit Luthra spoke to Matt Spomberg, Chairman and Managing Director at Saab India, on their FDI approval for the Carl Gustaf systems.
It's a step in our development as being more and more committed to the Make in India policy. We are reasonably confident that there will be a need for additional weapons and M4s to replace the existing event. There are also opportunities elsewhere in the world that we are selling Carl Gustaf, this Carl Gustaf system all over the world. So there might be other opportunities as well. But of course, having an order to launch the production from the Indian Army in this case would be extremely important.
Well, air pollution in Delhi NCR continues to remain in the hazardous category. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal chaired a high-level meeting yesterday. The government will implement the odd-even policy from 13th of November till the 20th of November next week. Now, the state government has also announced a work-from-home policy for 50% of the government staff until further notice. Air quality in large parts of Mumbai city as well remained poor. My colleagues Danish Anand and Rachna Dhanrajani get us this ground report.
Well, today is the fifth day in a row when we are seeing that the air quality in Delhi is in an alarming situation. However, in comparison to yesterday, we are seeing that the visibility has improved, but still the air is quite toxic. There are certain weather stations across Delhi that are reporting the air quality in the very poor category. Till yesterday, in several weather stations were reporting the air quality in the severe category. But somehow the situation has slightly improved, all thanks to a little wind pressure that we are witnessing since early morning.
Mumbai is currently grappling with worst air quality ever recorded, with several areas like Chembur, Worli, Mazgaon recording an AQI of about 300, which denotes hazardous level of air quality. Now, this comes a day after the Bombay High Court imposed a ban on transportation of construction debris from one place to another, and has further instructed that if construction materials are being moved from one place to another, they should be in covered trucks or in mixer plates. This is an attempt to curb the release of pollutants in the air.
Well, staying with the air pollution case, the MC Mehta case, which was heard today by the Supreme Court, was filed way back in 1985. Now, since then, year after year, the Supreme Court has been grappling with air pollution, trying to get the ball rolling on clean air. Today, however, the Supreme Court started seeing red. Justice Kaul noted how on a recent drive to Punjab, he saw farm fires on either side of the road. Hinting at the same ruling party both in Delhi and Punjab, he noted that the time for blame game is over. He remarked that the court had reached a point of zero patience and that action was required from the very next day. Punjab, Haryana and UP have been directed to stop farm fires with immediate effect. Chief Secretaries have been charged with supervision and will be held accountable. Delhi government has also been tasked with halting solid waste burning in the open. Supreme Court also warned that it was being compelled to start the bulldozer and that once it starts, it will not stop before reaching the logical conclusion. Now, the top court considered various suggestions for emergency action. The court questioned the Delhi government over the efficacy of the notorious odd-even scheme. Justice Kaul, in fact, asked if this was scientific or if the scheme was ever worked and whether it was a case of mere optics. As an alternative, the Supreme Court suggested a color-coded mechanism. The Supreme Court said that an orange color code could be assigned for polluting and diesel vehicles. Supreme Court said that curbs could be considered only for these orange-coded vehicles. Further, the Supreme Court flagged the volume of app-based cabs in Delhi. The court has suggested for the Delhi government to allow only Delhi-registered cabs to ply for a period of 10 to 15 days. The Supreme Court said that currently cabs registered in UP and Haryana are also plying in Delhi. Supreme Court then questioned the practice of growing rice in Punjab, which was causing the depletion of water table. The Supreme Court noted that rice should be replaced with other crops, and to that end, the centre must withdraw MSP from rice and support other crops like millets with the MSP. On the issue of farm fires, the Supreme Court took note of Punjab's 2,000 crore rupee proposal. As per Punjab's proposal, new farm equipment to help deal with stubble can be made available free of cost to the farmers. Under this proposal of the 2,000 crore rupee proposal, Punjab will bear 25% of the burden, hoping that Delhi would shoulder 25% and the centre 50%. On firecrackers, a different bench of Supreme Court reiterated the ban on traditional firecrackers, allowing only green crackers. The Supreme Court noted that its order was applicable across the country. Supreme Court is clearly running out of patience. It has directed the chief secretaries of all states neighbouring Delhi to hold a meeting on Wednesday, that's November 8th, and the top court will seek answers on the next hearing scheduled on Friday, that's November 10th.
It's very, very convenient for us to really hide behind stubble burning each year. Conveniently, of course, also for Aam Aadmi Party right now to really not hide behind stubble burning, because for many years they said that that was the main source, and right now they're saying it's not. And reality is that, yes, on any given day from 0% to 25 to 35% is what the contribution of stubble burning could ideally be. But the other perennial sources of pollution remain through the year, and there's very little, very reactive approach that we have towards pollution management, both at the local level, regional level, and national level.
The winter only reminds you, and winter is the time when the pollution is only getting trapped, but the pollution levels are already very high, not only because of the episodic problem of the crop burning in Punjab and Haryana, but also the continuous emissions coming from our vehicles, industry, power plants, waste burning. And therefore the question is, where is the round-the-year action to address this more fundamentally at the infrastructure and the system level, and not only wake up during winter with an emergency action?
Well, in global news now, over 10,000 people have been killed since the start of Israel's Hamas war a month back. At least 23 people have been killed in an overnight attack over cities in southern Gaza. Several casualties were reported in Khan Yunis after Israeli forces bombed the area. The Israeli army has confirmed that they have taken control of Hamas's stronghold in northern Gaza. In a statement, the Israeli Defense Force said that its jets struck down a cell with approximately 10 Hamas terrorists. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that the country will have an overall security responsibility over Gaza after the war ends. In an interview with ABC News, Netanyahu indicated that Israel plans to control the territory indefinitely. He added that there will be no general ceasefire in Gaza, but has signaled at tactical pauses. UN Secretary General warned that Gaza was becoming a graveyard for children.
Gaza is becoming a graveyard for children. Hundreds of girls and boys are reportedly being killed or injured every day. more journalists have reportedly been killed over a 4-week period than in any conflict in at least 3 decades. More United Nations aid workers have been killed than in any comparable period in the history of our organization.
Well, coming up, empty port promises and hollow words. Rajasthan farmers express discontent, tell CNBC-TV18 that they're trying to steer away from caste dynamics and vote as farmers. A special report from Jaipur up next. And you can also catch all CNBC-TV18's news and updates on WhatsApp, Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram, and JioCinema. Well, the electoral season has officially kicked off. 20 out of 90 Chhattisgarh Assembly constituencies have gone to polls in Phase 1. However, several of the seats are in Naxal-affected Bastar. As of 5 p.m., voter turnout in the state stood at over 70%. My colleague Arunima reports from a polling station in Dantewada district.
First phase of voting in Chhattisgarh has begun with 20 seats going to vote, 8 in Rajasthan area, 12 in Bastar. The security that you see behind me in the school of Arbe, which has become the polling center for 705 voters from nearby areas, including the Naxal-affected village of Nilavaya. This is really showing you what kind of security bandobast is required. So in these 12 seats of Bastar, Rajasthan is of a lot of significance. Rajasthan is the seat of former Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh, Raman Singh. In the last elections, out of these 20 seats, the first round of elections saw 17 go to Congress, and then subsequent by-elections, including by-election in Dantewada, ensured that Congress's total tally became 19 out of 20. The only seat which went to BJP was Dr. Raman Singh's seat of Rajasthan. This time around, Congress is hoping to repeat the performance, but BJP hopes that they will be able to make a mark in these 20 seats, especially the seats of Bastar.
Well, on to Mizoram now, where more than 77% of eligible voters in the state have exercised their voting rights as of 7 p.m. Now, the northeastern state is voting for 40 seats with 174 candidates in the fray. The Mizo National Front Congress and Zoram's People's Movement are fighting from all 40 constituencies, while the BJP is contesting from 23, AAP is fighting 4, and independent candidates are contesting 27 seats. And 66% of Rajasthan's population, which stands at over 8 crore people, is involved in agricultural activities, and that's too big an electorate for any political party to ignore or dismiss. In our ongoing series, Election Exchange Battle for Rajasthan, CNBC-TV18's Santhya Gora explains why, despite all the big promises parties make around every elections, implementation is a different ballgame entirely.
58-year-old Bajrang Lal of Jhag village near Jaipur has 8 hectares of arable land and debt in excess of 15 lakh rupees. So when Congress promised a full farm loan waiver in the run-up to elections 2018, he was a happy man. 5 years later, he is still waiting.
मेरे 15 लाख का केसीसी है बैंक का। समय पर मैं पैदावार से ब्याज भी नहीं दे पाता। सहकारी समिति से मेरे को 50,000 रुपए की रिलीफ मिली थी, उसमें मेरे माफ हुए हैं।
Congress insists it has kept its promises over the last 5 years technically. Farm loans availed from cooperative societies were waived in full. However, it says that loans from nationalized and other banks, which comprise the major chunk of farm loans in Rajasthan, could not be touched since that needed the centre's support, which did not come. Congress also dismisses farmer anger over unfulfilled promises as isolated incidents.
Central government banks where we are willing to negotiate and asking for settlement, but the government is actually not engaged in conversations with the government of India large-scale national banks.
So based on my tour and the stories I did, I spoke to multiple farmers in multiple areas, and all of them, they had this, grievance against your government, farm loan waiver. They say that it's not waived.
It's fine for some individual to have grievance, but largely speaking...
Do you think it's not going to impact the...
No, I think maybe some individuals, but largely we have lived up to our manifesto promises.
The Congress government's alleged failure to deliver on loan waivers is just one of the many challenges farmers of Rajasthan are facing.
जो बड़े बैंक थे, जो राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक थे, उनका कोई कर्ज माफ किसान को नहीं हुआ और किसानों को भुगतना क्या पड़ा इस बदले में? वो धोखे में रह गए कि हमारा कर्जा माफ हो जाएगा, ब्याज दर चढ़ता गया, वो ज़्यादा कर्जमान बनता गया और नतीजा ये हुआ कि यहाँ की किसानों की जो जमीनें थी वो कुड़क हो गई।
15% फसल की खरीदारी हुई है, बाकी तो सब बाजार में बेचनी पड़ती है साहब, और वो भी समय पे नहीं होती है, इसलिए मार्केट में देता है, मार्केट में किसान का माल सस्ता जाता है।
For the farmers of Rajasthan, the caste factor is seen as dominating voting patterns, just like it does for a large part of the state. But political parties cannot afford to neglect these farmers or give up a chance to woo them. That's why farmer-friendly schemes and promises find space in party manifestos and election promises every time. However, many farmers we spoke to say both BJP and Congress have historically let the farmers down when it comes to keeping their promises. And this time too, while promises are many, the confidence that anything will get done after the results is not high.
Farmer leaders say they are trying to change farmer mindsets when it comes to voting decisions.
तो इस बार किसान बनकर किसान के रूप में मतदान करेगा, यह हमने बीजारोपण किया है। इसका भी कोई ज्यादा अंतर आ जाएगा ऐसा नहीं है, लेकिन एक नई शुरुआत की है।
But this is a tough nut to crack.
किसान अपना जो समस्या है ना, उसको नहीं रखकर कांग्रेस की जय बोलता है, कभी बीजेपी की जय बोलता है, तो हम तो वो लोग हैं जो दूसरे की जय बोलते हैं आज तक।
जाति के नाम पे आप
जाति के नाम पे बढ़ जाते हैं, हमें वोट तो मजबूरी हमारी देना पड़ता है।
So it is that both Congress and BJP have chosen candidates for these constituencies that will satisfy the electorate's caste leanings. Nevertheless, as voting day nears, Congress hopes farmers will choose to believe it has made a good faith attempt to keep all its promises and help it return to power in the state. And BJP hopes the Congress government's shortcomings will sway the voting farmers in its favor. In Jaipur, Santiago.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you so much for watching. News and updates will continue right here on CNBC-TV18.